All of these people commenting, or replying to my comments, still defended your family members can be idols. And I actually got a comment on my video saying your children can be idols. But not one single person said that the government can be an idol. Not one single person said the government can be an idol. If you put your hand on your heart and you bow down in front of that flag, that's an awful lot like idol worship. But nobody mentioned that. But everybody seemed to have an issue where they think your family is an idol. No. It has to be something that you're worshiping as God. So I guess you had your children and you bowed down in front of them and offered them some sacrifices, then yes, that would be idol worship. What's funny, though, is that the government is the closest thing that everybody worships as an idol. The government tells us to celebrate the pagan holidays. The government steals our money in the form of taxes. The government invents its own laws, and it doesn't recognize God or Christ. And in fact, you're not even allowed to mix the two. So the government would actually be an idol. Now, we're allowed to follow laws that don't conflict with God's laws. But this is how you know these people are wrong. Here's another reason. And I knew that this was right, what is idol worship and wasn't. I knew what was correct, and I knew people were using it wrong. And I prayed and I asked God, if I have something wrong, let me know. And I feel more convicted after I see that comment. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? The governments really have been idols. But not one single person mentioned the government being an idol. But everybody mentioned your own family, your children can be an idol. No, okay. The closest thing I can think that everybody can understand as an idol would be the government. The government's not alive, it's an institution, and whoever, normally it's Satanists get into power, and they make the rules. But, they expect your money, your time, for you to follow the rules, to bow down in front of them, I guess. And if they want to, they can send the feds after you. And lock you up in prison if you don't follow their rules. That's another reason, is because God's laws, there should be no compulsion in religion. That means you can't be forced to do it, but you're advised to do it. And but yet no one once, not one Christian once, mentioned the government as an idol, when the government is a clear and obvious idol. The government is a clear and obvious idol. They make you sing their anthem and gaze at their flag. Sing their anthem, gaze at their flag, place your hand over your heart, and honor them. Like, you're basically praying to the government and giving them how much of your money in the form of taxes and following all the rules, even the ones that go against God. And then the government has made new food laws and have forbidden us from eating some of the healthiest food, and then have destroyed the nutrients in our food. They've subsidized things that are forbidden by God. They basically single-handedly have made us sick, and then they won't let you pray in school. Like, think about all the laws and rules the government has made. There are certain things like, murder, of course, is bad, and stealing is bad. Absolutely, but they actually have to have these laws, because it's very clear that it's a sin, and there'd just be chaos and anarchy in the streets if those weren't followed. But then they take all they basically make it so that you can't practice your religion at work or at school. And they basically just incentivize behavior that is not godly. So they incentivize you to behave in a way that's opposite of the way God intended us to live. And then they make it more difficult and take away financial rewards if you choose to follow God's way. So there was a way that we were supposed to live. And if you really think about it, the government basically just gives you tax breaks and handouts if you live the opposite way that God intended you to. But if you try to live the way that God wanted you to, you pay more and you don't get any breaks. So if you try to eat the healthy food that God allows, then you pay more, because the healthy food is not subsidized. That means our tax money is used to make foods that are unhealthy and full of carcinogens and genetically modified, that our tax dollars go towards making those cheaper. None of them go towards making kosher or halal foods cheaper. They don't. They don't. They actually make them more expensive, because the government tyrants, their agents, come in and they harass these businesses and shut them down when they're able to. And that's why I think a lot of Amish farms have had to switch, and they've joined the worldly system. They've joined the worldly system. It became unaffordable to sell halal and kosher food, especially meat. And so I'm just going to be a vegetarian for now. So they also incentivize women going to college and getting jobs. And if you want to do this, great. I think it's a good idea to be educated. But here's the issue. I don't think four-year college is a good use of money and time. I think that none of us should be going to four-year schools, and we should just be getting internships, essentially. Like, you want to work at a company, so you start working at them. There's an unpaid period of time while they train you. This could be even 4 months. And then after this 4 months, then you know how to do the job, you're trained, and then you start getting paid. So working for free for 4 months is better than paying $50,000 a year for 4 years to go to school to learn a lot of stuff that doesn't matter, to be indoctrinated in atheism and promiscuity. So what they're doing, and this is not good for anyone, but imagine what they're doing to women that are 18 years old. Instead of, because they could get married and be mothers at this time. They could be married and be raising children. Okay, you don't have to. No one says you have to. But this is actually like what women are supposed to do, is have children and raise their children. Now, if you enjoy things, then we all have hobbies and things we do other than work. So if the husband is supposed to go to work, and the husband is supposed to earn money, and the wife is supposed to raise the children. This is just the way it is. And they each have hobbies and things they do outside of their main job. So that doesn't mean, okay, and then after you reach a certain age, normally you can't have more children, and at that point you can go and get a job. So why is it that it takes like $100,000 and 4 years to go to college? This is not a good use of women's time. This is 4 years where they could have been having children at this age, especially when your food supply is full of chemicals. The younger you are, the healthier you are, essentially. So they basically delay them from being able to be a wife and mother until 19, 20, 21, 22, until they're 22, but then they got to go get a job, and then they have to pay off that loan. That takes, what, another 10, 15 years? So then they're going to be 35 before they get married and start having children. Do you see the problem here? So the government incentivizes that, and they want to reward women-owned businesses and such. Well, how about we just don't reward anyone, and we just let them do whatever they want, and we don't tax them? You know, that'd be a lot better to not have this fear that the government can come and get you and lock you up and steal your business, because that's what they can do with our current system. So this is what I'm saying. They reduce the price of the processed junk food and GMOs. So they make that really cheap. And the healthy stuff, they basically just get rid of it, honestly. They make it so expensive and so difficult. There's so many hurdles to sell healthy, kosher, and halal food. Like, the price is way up there because of all the government regulations and restrictions. And so they make new laws and new codes and things we don't need, but then they don't allow you to follow God's law. Like when all the food is irradiated, or it's genetically modified, or they remove the potash from the soil and they use Roundup Ready. I mean, just everything to make us unhealthy. And then they don't let you treat cancer naturally. If your child has cancer, they make you get chemotherapy, or your child is stolen from you. They don't believe that God heals, and all of the treatments are dangerous drugs and toxins, and none of them are like healing plants. So basically the plants work because for the drug, 90% of the drugs, the active ingredient is plant-based. So they take an ingredient from a plant, where they synthesize that same ingredient, and they concentrate it, and then they add in a bunch of colors and fluoride and a whole bunch of chemicals in there that are carcinogens and also have other health effects. Maybe mess up your third eye or pineal gland. And you get a bunch of other secondary issues. So it might be helping with your main medical condition while it's giving you cancer, or while it's deadening your compassion and empathy. So you see how they control what type of healing, and whether we're allowed to pray and ask God to heal. Whether we're allowed to pray in school. I mean, everything the government has done is essentially just to flip God's system upside down. And why is that? The existence of a government itself isn't bad. But unfortunately, you know that the devil's kingdom of darkness cheats. They skirt the rules. So they do what they can to get in power. and since they've amassed so much wealth and they controlled the media and everything, they're able to put their people in power, and then also have enough assassins that if anyone actually was a threat, then they could just, get rid of them. The closest thing that most people can understand what is an idol is the government, and they have their symbols, and they have their flags, and you place your hand over your heart and you sing an anthem, and you follow their rules, and the rules and the institution and the governments have made to weaken the believers and to strengthen the Antichrist.